Tusks up, Utah Mammoth fans. Welcome into another Utah Mammoth Daily. All right, bad news first, as seems to be the case here recently, is bad news first. Alexander Kerfoot is on IR, and he is listed as week to week, and that just sucks. I really like Alexander Kerfoot as a human being, as a player. He just plugs a lot of holes on the ship that is the USS Mammoth, and having him out, you could notice it early in the season when he was out, and especially gets like the Blue Jackets. You noticed it too. So there's not one player that can fill his role. It has to be a whole crew. It has to be your teammates stepping up. And Kevin Rooney's back up with the big club. We'll see if he gets any ice time. I think he should because the centers are dropping like flies here for the Mammoth. So getting just something in the centerman position would be fantastic. But Alexander Kerfoot, outside of what he does on the ice, and he was an alternate captain last year, so he obviously, apart from all of the dirty work he does on the ice, he's also a leader in the locker room. He does a lot off the ice as well to grow the sport of hockey here in Utah. Just with all of the clinics he helps run, and he wants to see more girls get into hockey, which is amazing. And just seeing a guy like that not being able to do the thing he loves most just really sucks, man. So I want to see Alexander Kerfoot get healthy. I want to see him back on the ice. I want to see that smile back on the ice too. And hopefully he can come back around the same time as Logan Cooley after the Olympic break. Maybe we'll get an injection of Cooley and Kerfoot straight into our veins here. And for that big push for the playoffs, and having those two guys back is going to be a big deal. It is going to be a big deal, but I don't think that's the big game hunting that Bill Armstrong's talking about. At least I hope it's not. I hope that Logan Cooley isn't the big game that he's talking about. But there's new sellers that have emerged, according to a lot of places. Bleacher Report, NHL.com, TSN, ESPN, even a little bit. The New York Rangers are coming alive as potential sellers here at the Olympic trade deadline and the real actual trade deadline in March. As sellers, they're emerging as sellers. So Artemi Panarin obviously is the big prize, unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. The contract talks have not gone well between him and his club, so he would be a rental for a team. So I don't think that fits what the Mammoth want to do. They would like to get somebody with term or somebody that they can guarantee gets signs a deal that keeps them here in Utah for at least a couple of seasons, as opposed to just a rental to get to the playoffs. So I think the Mammoth are squarely out of the Panarin sweepstakes just because it doesn't fit the way they're building the team. Who does fit? MZ, Mika Zibanejad. If he waives his no-trade clause to come to Utah, he's got term on his contract. It is a beefy contract, but he is the kind of player that Utah is lacking. Gritty, can score goals, runs the power play, can play on the penalty kill. He is just that hockey guy. And he wins faceoffs. I love his game. You all know it. I've said it many times. I love Mika Zibanejad's game, and I think it would fit in perfectly with Utah. So that is who I would like to see them go after. But yeah, with Igor Shesterkin going down for a long time with a pretty severe leg injury, and after that 10-2 drubbing that they took at the hands of the Boston Bruins, who aren't exactly the Colorado Avalanche, they're starting to change their plans a little bit, and who knows, maybe the GM is out the door too, and they're just going to start fresh. But their head coach is not a quitter. Sullivan, he's not a quitter. Mike Sullivan's not a quitter. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the Rangers out of Madison Square Garden over the next few weeks as we get closer to the Olympic deadline and seeing where they kind of land in the standings before the break. So I'm keeping my fingers on the pulse of that one very closely because I really do want Mika Zibanejad, as does 31 other teams. Like, it's not like that's a sleeper pick or anything, but I do want to see Mika Zibanejad in these colors here. So I think that would be fantastic. But there are interesting pieces that might come available from the New York team. Obviously, the crown jewels are Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin. All of those are the two crowd jewels the most, but there are others. So, a new seller for us to kind of look at here. There's so few when we look at these standings. I think these standings are ridiculously close, and I really don't want to see Utah be one of those teams that slip out of the standings, but if they keep losing to teams like Columbus, that's not good news. And speaking of Columbus, they did just fire their head coach. Maybe there's a reset coming in Columbus to recalibrate their rebuild or their build. So Boone Jenner, maybe on the way out, potential get there for the Mammoth. He plays center left wing. Saw him against Utah. So maybe there's something there. But new seller has emerged, and it is the New York Rangers, and that is kind of exciting. But will we see any hockey trades for the Mammoth? I don't think so. Obviously, there are players that teams want on every team. And when it comes to the Mammoth, there's Nick Schmaltz, guys like that where it is a good hockey player who's at the end of his contract. The clubs aren't close, Artemi Panarin. And so there might be like a one-for-one trade, but I don't see a one-for-one for a Nick Schmaltz type player going somewhere and coming back that has that same kind of production that Nick Schmaltz has. But Nick Schmaltz, it comes in bursts, and it's never reliable. And that's not really what you want on a playoff team. You want reliability. So when it comes to a hockey trade for Bill Armstrong and company, I don't see one happening because the other pieces that might fit the bill there would be like an Ian Cole, Nate Schmidt, maybe. Barrett Hayton. I mean, if you do a one-for-one for Barrett Hayton, I mean, you're basically getting a ham sandwich, right? Without cheese. So who knows what's going to happen there? But I don't see any hockey trades coming out of Salt Lake City. I don't. It just doesn't make sense for the direction that Bill Armstrong wants this team to go. He wants that build to go like this. I'd like to see the build more like that, especially after what we saw this team can do. And so once Logan Cooley gets back, that's going to tell a lot of what the future is going to hold for this club. And I'm really excited to see that at the end of the Olympic break after watching Clayton Keller win gold. So that's something to keep an eye out for. These trade boards keep getting updated. There's not always a lot of Utah Mammoth on them because nobody really knows what Bill Armstrong is doing, what he's talking about when it comes to big game hunting. What is big game to the Mammoth? Is it a high draft pick or is it an aging superstar to lend credence to the market or something like that? Who knows? But one thing I do know is there are a couple of players, and I keep misspelling Olli Mata's name, and I apologize for that. I am such a stupid. But Nick Schmaltz is definitely one that is going to be on the way out. The contract situation, they were way apart on what was happening there. They even got a trade list from Nick Schmaltz. Barrett Hayton, I mean, he's done. We've seen what he could do. It's time to bundle him up in a package and ship him off. Olli Mata's been a healthy scratch for a long time now, and Nick DeSimone doesn't fit the timeline, really. There are others that could move. Kevin Stenlin could move. A team might need a face-off guy, but there's no team in the NHL that needs a face-off guy more than Utah. So unless Utah, the wheels come completely off, I don't think that they're going to move Stenner. But when you look across the landscape of the NHL, there's no team that's really selling. There's no team that's truly out of it except for like the Winnipeg Jets, and they're not going to be selling terribly too much because they think they're close enough. I mean, they were President's Trophy winners last year, so that's entirely possible. The Canucks could continue their sell-off and just rebuild around the package they got from Minnesota and then continue to kind of recoup everything around that and start a rebuild, but that's not really what that club does. Calgary, St. Louis. I mean, there are teams that could start selling off. The Blue Jackets, like I mentioned, I don't think the Senators are going to sell any pieces, although that goalie situation is worth monitoring. And other than that, I mean, every other team is in it. So there's not going to be that many sellers unless these next 2 weeks a team, the bottom completely drops out from them. So me personally, these are the names that I think are going to be moving. These are the names that are most attractive to at least other GMs on rebuilding clubs because it's expiring deals or it's a veteran that has this sort of defensive makeup you would want on a young team like Olli Mata. I know he's had a rough year this year, but he's still an Olympian. So that's how I'm thinking things are going to shake out. I'd like to see some sort of movement and change around the Mammoth outside of guys getting injured. So that's what I would like to see. I don't want to see Daniil Boot go back down to Tucson. I've seen that a lot. No, he made a mistake. He was trying to make a play. I don't want to see him get knocked down to Tucson because that would shatter the confidence of pretty much anybody. So keep him up at the big club. Hopefully he scored a goal last night against Toronto. Let me know your thoughts on who's on the way out for the Mammoth, who you'd want to see in a Mammoth jersey now that more sellers are coming into the picture, although not as many as we would like. And hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.